So you all know the story of Kenji Setou. I'm just gonna play my old video just to give you a quick rundown. Once upon a time, there was one man named Kenji Setou. He's a conspiracy nutjob who kept on saying that feminists are gonna take over the world, chanting those lines in Yamako Academy in 2012, and continued to chant the conspiracies into the vast open world as he graduated. People kept on dismissing him as a conspiracy nutjob and just an absolute lunatic in general, and honestly, you can't blame them. The feminists are of course not gonna take over the world, and Kenji is legally blind. He's not in any forms of way credible for this entire discussion. Cut into 2014-2016, where actual feminists have taken over the world. They went into the comic book industry, completely ruining Marvel to the point where most of their comics fall down to the bottom 50 of the September chart. They went into video games, throwing massive temper tantrums on Tumblr to the point where video games got censored. They got out to ban Halloween costumes to the point where the police would be involved in the situation. Some of the most prominent of the voices literally went to the UN advocating for the banning of internet trolls who disagree with them. They have indoctrinated students with horrendously useless gender studies program. Don't even get me started on Digra. Just at the time where the conspiracy has turned real, people have started to turn to Kenji and believe everything that he say. People tried to find him anywhere, but he has gone. He is nowhere to be found at a time where he has gained significance. It's too late. The feminists have taken over the world, and our prophet is long lost, gone. A very sad story, isn't it? We're seeking for the prophet, but unfortunately the prophet is gone. The one thing that I love is that Kenji has a goal in mind. Kenji's goal is to warn people of the dangers of feminists and feminism taking over the world, but nobody listened and he gets shunned. Probably kicked into another dimension where he can be a character in a visual novel. Oh no. Anyway, Kenji has left some form of a cult following. The cult consists of people who hate the feminists so much, they actually turn into the monster that the feminists describe. Kenji might be a bit of a nutjob, but at least he was still somewhat rational on his thinking. Is it like the dreaded MRAs that the feminists kept talking about? Well, no, the MRAs, like the honey badger, aren't really asking for the superiority of men. They're free of letting men to do whatever the hell they want, and also advocating for the actual rights and equality of men and women. Disclosure, I was on Honey Badger Radio in case you missed it. That doesn't mean that I'm an MRA. No, this isn't MRAs. This is something more extreme. This is the opposite spectrum of a feminist. And I know this because they write articles like this. How anime is programming men to be weak and submissive. This article is going to kill me. My Lord and Savior Kenji, please guide me to the extremes of your cult.
Last year, I decided to stay over at an old friend's apartment, who had been my roommate back in college. A couple of weeks of residing there, every time I moved in and out of his room, my old buddy would be watching anime on his laptop. His door had a poster of his favorite anime, Sword Art Online.
Send all of your hate comments here.
He wasn't an otaku or a dumb weeb. Rather, to simply put it, it was his pastime or a hobby to relax from the stress that men face in the modern-day world. I remember watching anime as a kid, and I admit, I enjoyed it. But not anymore.
Oh my god, it was those terrible feminists that came into the world of anime. Terrible, terrible. We should get out of this galaxy.
When he watched anime, he stared at the screen with fascination as if he was a scientist waiting for the rocket to land on the moon. I was curious, so I asked him to recommend me some anime that he enjoyed. This is where I realized the ugly, misandric nature of anime that teens are exposed to.
I don't get it. Is anime misogynistic or misandric? If it's both, I don't even... The extremes on both sides are about as equally hilarious. This is the best April Fool's joke since...
The first anime I chose from the list was about a teenage girl named Misaki who joined an all-boys school which recently opened to girls. She works as a maid to support her family as her father had abandoned them.
It's called Maid Sama, and it's not exactly the best anime ever. It's about a hardcore tsundere Mary Sue who is constantly stalked by a Gary Stu, so perfect it would make Edward from Twilight look more flawed. It's funny at times, but let me tell you, it's really not worth it going to the 20 plus episodes.
That does not like men female protagonist. A female protagonist that openly hates men.
You haven't seen the anime then. In the anime, Misaki enters a juvenile delinquent high school that is mostly populated by men. Thanks to the dominance of men in that school, the women in there are actually harassed. This isn't to say that most male-dominated schools do this. This is a school specifically on the anime. They get stalked, they get picked out by absolute perverts, and she is the president of that school who is tired of the men being delinquents. So of course she said that line. That doesn't mean that she hates men in general. She just hates the men in that school, and for good reasons. They are actually delinquents. The funny thing is, there's a very similar story of majority bullying the minority in the anime Toshokan Senso, aka Library Wars. The female fighters are actually being bullied by the female office workers. The fighters are of course the roles usually reserved to the men, and it's unusual to see them being bullied by the people who are in a less masculine but bigger in number roles. The protagonist is also trying to revolt against the majority in that specific episode because the majority is actually bullies. So different stories yield in different contexts. Of course, the majority of people doesn't mean that they're going to be bullies in real life, but in those specific stories, yes, they are. My question is, how are you going to spin the Maid-sama story to somehow include a feminist conspiracy?
Misaki never trusts her male counterparts and beats them up if they tried something she didn't approve of. The whole show is centered on how girls can be better than boys, where she terrorizes men, and how these men are portrayed as nothing but pervs, violent, thirsty, mindless jerks.
No. The whole show is centered on a female president trying to control the male-dominated high school so that they're not delinquents. Keep on watching, and she basically succeeds to the point where the boys starting to fall for her instead.
Usui, the male character, after being yelled at for no reason, is strangely
Stop. Usui is a stalker. The moment he saw her using that maid outfit, that's where he got so attracted to her, he came into her cafe almost every day to the point where she gets so annoyed and of course yells at him. He even does this just to, I don't know.
そこで何やってんだよ
She yelled at him a lot because, well, who wants to get stalked at? I know the Fujoshis are gonna go, well, it's Usui and I look at the pictures of him every day, so I'll let him stalk me. Well, good for you, lady, but the other normal-minded people are gonna yell at others for doing this sort of thing, okay?
This hyper-misandric women deemed attractive in the eyes of both anime characters and the male fans. This show is targeted towards girls who called it one of the most romantic anime.
No, Maid-sama is an all-out wish fulfillment anime with a Mary Sue character and a Gary Sue love interest. If you're a Fujo who gets turned on for being a whiny tsundere to a nearby hot boy who is so perfect he's practically God, this anime is for you. Romance is surprisingly not the strongest part on this anime. The romance is very two-dimensional and one-sided. There's a lot more Usui getting attracted to Misaki than Misaki getting attracted to Usui. And when she gets attracted to Usui, it's pretty arbitrary and it doesn't feel natural. The anime explicitly have him say, oh, but you also complete me, Misaki. No, anime. 99% of the time, you show Usui completing Misaki, not the other way around. Show, don't tell, please. Again, he's practically God, but that's the point of a wish fulfillment anime, I suppose. However, if you're in it for the comedy, well, suit yourself. It's actually quite funny at a lot of times. If you're in for a romance anime, get Toradora. That one is better.
This is a common formula used by anime and manga creators to depict a strong, independent woman who doesn't need a man. Female superiority is rising within anime, and young boys may become some of those nice guys who get used by women.
Good God. It's only a matter of time before he watched Demi-chan. The levels of female superiority in there is just astounding.
The common genre for anime girls called tsundere, which refers to a stubborn...
Stop. No. It's not a genre, it's a trope. It's a character element. It's a plot element. Tsundere is, to put it simply, incredibly stubborn bitches who is really nice on the inside but very stubborn and hot-headed in the outside towards maybe a couple of specific characters that they personally like, which explains why a majority of them is associated with the color red. Nobody calls an anime a tsundere anime. They usually call, for example, Emi from Hataraku Maou-sama a tsundere, or Kurisu from Steins Gate a tsundere, or Misaki from Maid-sama a tsundere, or Sakura Haruno from Naruto a tsundere, or Asuka from Evangelion a tsundere, or Taiga from Toradora a tsundere.
Shows like Sword Art Online, Bleach, Toradora, Dragon Ball Z, etc. I could name 100 more, but that would mean I would include almost every anime. And not just any people who are influenced, but the most desperate men across the world. Men who have never had any luck with women are always attempting to fulfill a woman's most dangerous desires just to keep her.
You know, I want to think of what it would be like if Kenji comes into real life and see anime and video games. I don't think he would be this extreme.
These shows are not only designed to destroy the male image and present it as inferior, but also
Tsunderes are designed to destroy the male image. I need a minute. Holy shit.
These shows are not only designed to destroy the male image and present it as inferior, but also to ruin their self-confidence as human beings for being male. In dozens of anime, males are portrayed as either weak or stupid, similar to how Daddy Pig in the cartoon Peppa Pig is simply made to be laughed at, or how the main male cast of The Simpsons slowly degraded into ambition-less couch potatoes and the women becoming political figures.
Well, I'm gonna be fair to the writer here. This is a common trope in anime. The protagonist is this really awkward, passive kid who is supposed to represent the everyday otaku, as if that's not insulting at all. The king who embodies this trope perfectly is one of the most hated characters in the anime community, and that is Shinji Ikari from Evangelion. There are quite a lot of Shinjis in anime. There are lots of characters that are passive and have weak will. But to me, at least Shinji was in some ways relatable. At least you start off the anime with Shinji. That one passive character that I hate was Vincent from Ergo Proxy. This is the guy who stole this show for quite a number of episodes from a super hot shotgun-wielding badass. I cannot forgive you for that anime. I simply cannot. But there are tons of anime out there with characters that are not this passive guy. For example, the anime that you mentioned, Dragon Ball Z and Toradora. Oh sure, there are times in which the men are weak. Goku and his relationship with Chi-Chi isn't exactly stable, but it doesn't happen all the time. There are things that we're gonna be weak at. Even Shinji has some of his strengths, except those strengths would be less noticeable in a mecha, and more noticeable if he's being put one-on-one with Gordon Ramsay.
Go girlism and male bashing. If you grew up watching TVs in the 1990s, there is no way you escape seeing at least a few episodes of Sailor Moon. It redefined the magical girl genre in its native Japan, and its overseas influence has shown up in girl power shows like the Powerpuff Girls, and is the definition of a feminist anime. Haruka and Michiru, the series' Sailor, Uranus, and Neptune, were a lesbian couple who helped girls around the world come to terms with their sexuality. The series also makes a point of commenting on how the less traditionally feminine girls have trouble coping with the gender roles, like how Makoto learned to cook because she was teased for being a tomboy.
I don't know much about Sailor Moon. I watch a couple of shows of it on TV, but I know next to nothing. What's the good question for today? How about this? Who is the anime character that you hate the most and why?
Male disposability in anime was the right word I was looking for. Naruto has plenty of scenes where he is beaten up by women. Not to forget, where I thought Gintama would be free of male bashing, where Shimura Tai, a smiley woman, constantly beats up a hairy man simply for asking her out. Is this supposed to be comedy?
Well, to be fair, Naruto is a juvenile delinquent. Naruto is very naughty in a lot of things, especially in the first couple of seasons. The woman who beat him up is mostly Sakura, but she's an all-around tsundere who hates Naruto because he's Naruto. As for Gintama, well, taking Gintama seriously is your first mistake.
There's plenty of hentai anime, like Girls Bravo for example, a blue-haired boy who is mocked for being short by his female schoolmates. He is bullied to the point where he's even allergic to women. Imagine an anime where a girl was treated like trash because she's fat.
I don't have to. It's called Elfen Lied, except the girl is being bullied for being not human. Go watch it. It's a really damn good harem anime that will blow your mind.
In one scene on the first episode, the boy accident walks into the bathroom where his female neighbor was taking a shower. She screams and throws a tantrum. She brutally beats him up where his nose begins to bleed until he falls into a tub where he is eventually woken up in a planet where there are only women. However, since he was the only male in the planet, he is sexually harassed constantly throughout the episodes and women molest him.
That sounds like a really damn good premise for an anime. Thanks for the recommendation. I love myself some beating.
Being a hentai, porn pervert sexual anime aimed for women, abusing boys seems to be normalized. In most households of Japan, women control all the finances. I wonder if Japanese men get domestically violated by women the same way as in anime.
You're well aware that there are boys who get turned on when women beat them up, right? I've heard a couple of people from the anime community who wants to get beaten up by Revi from Black Lagoon so that they can get rock hard. I regret nothing. Oh look guys, new Black Lagoon!
Low birth rates in Japan.
You're going there, aren't you?
Feminization of men is also an issue. Perhaps the decline in population is simply because of this hidden feminism in Japan. In Batum, a Hunger Games-styled anime, Himiko always carries a stun gun wherever she goes because she is afraid of being touched by men. Her fear of man stems her past experiences with men who attempted to rape her. Her trauma is so severe that she announces to Ryota that every man on the island is her enemy.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because I haven't watched Batum. I've heard people kept on saying that Japan is going on decrease in population and that it's gonna destroy it in and out. Well, it's not. If you see here, things are just fine and dandy. Even if there is a decrease, it's so minuscule, it's unnoticeable and comparable to any other countries. I don't know why there should be like a scare on this. Is it because of the anti-NEET or hikikomori sentiment that's been running around? Ryan of the Stars pointed out that these low birth rate surveys are not representative of the Japanese population. Japan's birth rate from the 80s compared to now is pretty much the same. He even points out that Japan is already overpopulated as it is, and that this dip of population is not a huge issue. As for the myth that lots of Japanese people are virgins,
so the report actually says 42% of unmarried men between 18 to 34 are virgins, which is very, very different from saying 42% of all men. And these numbers are not too surprising if you know that in Japan and in many other Asian countries, people tend to lose their virginity later than Western countries.
While I was on my final anime, which I watched for research, Mirai Nikki, the female
you mean for academic purposes.
While I was on my final anime, which I watched for research, Mirai Nikki, the female character you know, will resort to cruel and unusually violent methods, most of the time coming from out of nowhere, that generally end in bloody deaths of anyone who tries to get in the path of the boy she likes, even if they are his close relatives, effectively making her a yandere.
Oh, God help me, this article is going to kill me. Mirai Nikki is a feminist anime. Although to be fair to the writer, Yuki is a massive pussy and frankly, he can go screw himself.
The young girl seems to be having the Othello syndrome, a type of delusional jealousy marked by suspecting a faithful partner of infidelity, with accompanying jealousy, attempts at monitoring and control, and even violence. Many men often suffer when their wives are extremely jealous, whereas this yandere genre is particular that of a girl who stalks her lover, keeps him away from everyone he loves simply because she wants him as her property.
And that's what happened when a normie finds out what a yandere is. Also, it's not a genre, it's a character element. Ugh, never mind.
I also stumbled upon an incomplete game about a playable yandere girl, which has many references to Mirai Nikki. On starting the game, I had a picture of what it was about. Your character is simply an emotionless teenage girl who harbors feelings for a guy who doesn't even know she exists. Your mission is to stalk him and try to eliminate rivals so that she has him for herself. By eliminate, meaning to kill.
It's called Yandere Simulator. It's actually not too hard to name it. And I love that you call Yandere Simulator a wonderful game that encourages young girls to stalk and manipulate their crushes. This isn't Kenji. This isn't Kenji. This is the cult of Kenji. Kenji is way more rational than this.
Recently, I was informed that the developing team had added a tsundere character and a pedophile teacher into the game who would seduce him perhaps. I don't feel the need to talk anymore about it.
Oh no! Fictional characters that don't act like normal human beings!
A pedophilic female character who preys on a teenage boy's sexuality. There's plenty of harem and anime with a guy and many female characters where he is eventually mistreated by his female counterparts. Even many of Hayao Miyazaki's films are centered on young, strong, empowered girls.
Well, at least the cult of Kenji left something to be laughed at.
When asked about it, he said, "When we compare a man in action and a girl in action, I feel girls are more gallant. If a boy is walking with a long stride, I don't think anything in particular. But if a girl is walking gallantly, I feel that's cool. Maybe that's because I'm a man, and women may think it's cool when they see a young man striding. At first, I thought, this is no longer the era of men. But after 10 years, I grew tired of saying that. I just say, 'cause I like women. They are more reality.' All these point out to why there are sites entirely dedicated to feminism in anime."
You mean Anafem? Or the Mary Sue? Well, Anafem hasn't done anything like horrendous except for mistreating that freelance writer, and the Mary Sue, well, I don't know, I don't care. If they made something so hilarious, please do let me know.
Yesterday, I decided to get in touch with my friend to ask him about his life and job. He's a stereotypical nice guy who remains friend zone. He lets women pinch his cheeks and push him when he just laughs it off. If a woman does something unfair to him, he simply sweeps it under the rug. "I'm not interested in dating currently," he said when I asked him if he had a girlfriend. Either anime has terrorized him to protecting his virginity, or he's simply happy being treated like a loser in a tsundere anime by his female co-workers.
Oh my god. That's your interpretation on why this guy doesn't date. Oh my god. The cult of Kenji is getting more and more insane. Look, I am someone who watches anime a lot, and I'm not interested in dating because I'm not interested in dating. I can ask someone for a date if I want to, but there isn't like one girl that interests me around my college. I'm just not interested in general at all. If you think that anime plays a factor in me being a pussy, no. Anime are just entertainment. They have nothing to do with my dating preferences or how I treat women or how I let women treat me. Good God. This article came from... This article came from Return of Kings. In terms of fruit, even Mary Sue is higher. I have lots of fun reading this thing. I don't expect it to be this entertaining, but my god. It's so much fun. Anyway, before we end this video, huge thanks to Sneaky Kajit for the pledge on Patreon. You are fantastic. That's all for the video today. If you like this, you can go ahead, click the like button, and subscribe for more. If you wish, you can support me on Patreon. And thanks for watching.